Good morning, everyone. Today I'll be talking about quadratics. So, what are quadratics basically? In order to determine a quadratic A, B, and C, we need to gather all the terms to one side and the other side is supposed to equal to 0. So basically, what it's saying is that ax squared plus bx plus c should equal to 0. Ax squared plus bx plus c is known as the quadratic equation. So, to get into details, guide to factoring a quadratic equation. So, we need to collect all the terms to one side, as I said. So, for example, if we have x squared plus 3x plus 0 is equal to 2. So we should move, let's make this negative 2. So we should move negative 2 to the other side. So x squared plus 3x plus 2 is equal to 0. And then we should factor it. So how can we factor this? Let's have a 2 and 1. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. So that's how. So our two terms are x plus 1 and x plus 2. And we should use the null factor law, which is if a times b is equal to 0, either a is equal to 0 or b is equal to 0. Now, since we have learned about factoring and I've shown this example before, so we'll solve this equation by factoring. So x squared plus 3x plus 2 is equal to 0. So we have our 0 at this side. So 2 and 1, which will get us 3. So we can go like this, x and x, 2 and 1, so which will be 3. So x plus 1 and x plus 2. So x is equal to negative 1 and x is equal to negative 2. So here we got our answers. Now, moving on to steps for completing by square method of a quadratic. So, besides factoring, we can use the square method. Check the coefficient of x squared. So it's not always x squared plus something x plus an integer like 1 is equal to 0. There are usually sometimes there can be an equation like 3b squared minus 5b plus 2 is equal to 0. So you need to get rid of the 3 in order to do this completing square method. Move the constant to the other side. As I shown before, it should be equal to 0 before you start the equation. But here we should move the c, which is an ax plus bx plus c. So the c should be moved to the other side where 0 is, and then complete left hand side to the square with and write left hand side as perfect square. So if we have x squared plus 8x plus 15. So x squared plus 8x plus 15 is equal to 0. So we move 15 to the other side, and then we use b divided by 2 square to get the perfect square, and we leave x alone. We do not mess with x. So now there will be I'll show you how to solve by completing square. So we have x squared plus 8x plus 8x plus 5 is equal to 0. So here we move 5 to the other side, and we take 8 divided by 2 square, which is equal to 4 square, which is 16. So x squared plus 8x plus 16 is equal to 16 minus 5. We'll make this 15 because 5 doesn't look like an appropriate answer we will get at the end. So then here we'll factor this, so it'll be x plus 4 square, which is equal to 1. Then we will get rid of the x, so we'll root this and then square that side, so it'll be x plus 4 is equal to 1, plus and minus 1, so x is equal to 1 minus 4 or 1 plus 4. Negative 1 minus 4. So the formula of a quadratic. Now we have learned two ways. One way is the completing square method, and the other is factoring. The third method is the quadratic, using the quadratic formula. Now here we have b. Let's change the color of the pointer if we can. In color to, let's make it blue. So A, C, and A again. So here in this case we refer back to the quadratic because it says quadratic here, so which is ax squared plus bx plus c. So if we're given, let's use our previous example, which is, or let's use an example that has an a. So 3b squared minus 5b plus 2. In this case, this will be written in a quadratic formula as negative 5b plus and minus. Forgot to put the plus and minus here. So plus and minus root b squared, which is 5 squared, negative 5 squared minus 4 times, which is a is 3 in this case, times 2 divided by 2a, 2 times 3, and then we'll narrow this down until we get our final answer, which will be b is equal to 2 by 3 or b is equal to 1. Now, we learned about the quadratic formula, which is negative b plus and minus root 4b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. And right now, what's inside the root b squared minus 4ac could be written as a discriminant, which in physics is known as delta, but here in this case is known as a discriminant. So why we use a discriminant, there's a reason always for everything. So to identify if there will be any root, when we get answers, either we get one answer, two answers, or no answer. Sorry. Answer. Okay, so in the previous slide there was the first rule was if delta is equal to a negative number, -1 or so on, then there will be no solution, no root. However, if delta is equal to 0, there will be an equation, and if delta is equal to more than 0, then there will be two answers. Now we'll go down to the graphing of quadratic formulas. When we graph quadratic rules, there are rules. So if a is greater than 0, the graph will be upwards. So, and if a is less than 0, the graph will be downwards. So an upward graph would look like this. A downward graph would look like this. Now the point at this point, this is the minimum point of the graph, and this is the maximum point of this graph. The requirements to sketch a graph is we need the x-intercept, the y-intercept, and the vertex point. The vertex point is known as the center point of the graph. The y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis, and the x-intercept is where the graph crosses the x-axis. There are three different forms of quadratics. This form is also known as the vertex form. Now, to show an example of in order to find the y-intercept, we can just, in this case, replace the x with 0, and we'll get the y-intercept. In order to get the x-intercept, we just take the p and the q values here in this case, and this point is tricky. The negative sign does not tell you that the value is negative. If q is plus q, then in this case it will be negative. If it's positive p, then it will be negative p. And if it's plus q, it will be minus q. You write it alone. And to find the vertex point, you have to take p plus q. P plus q divided by 2. which will give you the vertex, one point, the x point of the vertex, and then you can just plot into the function fx is equal to the equation above, which is a x minus q x minus p. Well, you don't have to actually use the same letters all over again. It's up to you, whatever letters you use, however you remember it, but this is how the equation is written. Now, this equation we're already familiar with, and now how to graph with this equation. Well, the x-intercept, you know how to get it. There are various ways: the squaring method, the completing square, and then the quadratic formula. The y-intercept could be found by replacing all the values by 0, which will only leave us with c, so this can be known as the y-intercept. And for the vertex form, we take b, negative b, so it'll be b, and it'll be always negative in front, divide by 2a, which will give us the x, and we plot it into the function, and we'll get the y. So this will give us the vertex form. Next, this is known as the vertex form. So here, to get the x-intercept, you find zeros by using any way, and to get the vertex point is pretty obvious. You take the h and the k, and it's the same situation as I told you in x minus q, x minus p. So if it's negative, it's actually positive, so it's h alone, and if it's positive h, it will be negative h, and k we put in, so we get the vertex, which is h and k. And so we have covered the y-intercept, the x-intercept, and the vertex point. Now, before we go on, there is the y-intercept. There is the minimum value, which I mentioned before, and maximum value. And then there is the axis of symmetry. So if this is your point in a graph, the minimum maximum value will be the x, and the axis of symmetry will be the y from the vertex point. And that is all. However, there's one more thing I'd like to show you. Which is problem solving. So, if you're given a problem related to these questions, how would you solve it? Let's use a white color pen. Let's use a highlighter. It's strong and easier to see. So if we're given a problem, area of rectangle is 48 centimeters square, length of width is 2 centimeter less than the length. Find the perimeter. So this is a tricky question. The area of the rectangle is 48 centimeter square. The length of the width of the rectangle is 2 centimeter less than the length. Find the perimeter of the rectangle. So it should be x, which is the length. So here will be a rectangle, and this will be x minus 2. So we can write this as x minus 2, which is equal to 48. And then x squared minus 2x minus 48, which is equal to 0. So we have a quadratic formula here. Then we factor these, negative 8 and 6, and then we get x minus 6 plus 6 and x minus 8, and then x is equal to 8, x is equal to 6.